Yeah,
Self-contained in
I
McDonald's,
did
probably.
read my niece, great niece, I
I'll
should
have a
say,
Big Mac on me,
gymnastics, Emma, so I read
Fish
her.
sandwich.
I'd have to say something
Fish
online to
fry.
her, but,
I
it's
like
hard
their
on my
chicken,
phone,
or their
I'm
crispy
having to
chicken.
do it on here.
Is it pretty good?
With a little mustard on it. Since there's no Chick-fil-A around here.
When you go to your email, you don't have to put in your password anymore, right?
I had a son there in Red Angel.
I
Yesterday.
finally
It was good.
authenticated
I had Philly
everything,
steak and
but now it says when I get to my
really
mail,
nice.
like I have to go to, let's see, it's weird,
A bunch of cats got it.
because when I go down here, yeah, like I have to continue, and then it says it's setting things up, and then I have to, and then
Once they make vinyl paint.
but I
don't
did
they?
that
I mean,
earlier,
yeah, vinyl spray.
but I still had to do that, and I still had to log in, continue, it's just weird. So that's kind of a pain. It's gotta get done. I was hoping to do it.
Grandson took sectional camp outside Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, was that at, did you wrestle with Defiance?
Yeah.
What's I probably did you there or not?
Oh, yeah, so you were doing the time
Should
thing.
have come down and smack me or
I
something.
don't want to talk to you. No, I didn't go over.
I didn't know how he was connected, because, well, I had seen him before.
Yeah.
I seen your wife at one of the events, but I didn't know how that connection was.
What weight class you wrestled?
But
What class you
he
wrestled?
dropped down to 156.
All right, we're getting underway in about 30 seconds.
He went undefeated. First
Yeah.
match was only like 12 seconds.
Well, I wish him luck.
We're going to go to Columbus, what, 2
Or
weeks?
walk.
2 weeks to state of it.
10, 9. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, February 27th, 2024. Before we get underway, we have Pastor Don Litchfield here as our guest to open us up in prayer. Thanks for being our guest this evening.
Glad to be here. I noticed the picture of the fortress there, and the thought went through my mind, the fortress was built to protect the interests of those living there. A military fortress, but there are others, I'm sure, around. And in a little different sense, you're not a militia, you're not the police, but you represent a lot of issues and the interests of this community. And so, first say, we appreciate the work that you're doing. I try to follow some of the things that's going on here, so appreciate that. And so therefore my prayer is that you have that wisdom and guidance to have the fortress, in a sense, protecting the interests of our people here. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we do bless and praise you, for you are our protector. You watch over us, you keep us. And Lord, these are gathered here in a sense to supply that protection and direction and support for the people of this community, of the businesses. And Lord, I'm asking that you would help them have wisdom, discernment, Lord God, to imagine or think of those things that maybe wouldn't have thought of otherwise, Lord, that would be pertinent to the decisions made and the direction that they feel they need to go. May you bless them in this endeavor and know that in some way they're serving all of us, and we appreciate that. And so I just pray your guidance, your help, and your blessing in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for being our guest. This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present this evening. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I reviewed the index minutes for our previous meeting of February 13th. Does anyone have a motion to correct or amend the index minutes as they're presented? Without any such motion, I'll endorse them. Do we have any liaison meeting requests or reports? Mr. Oresti?
Yes, my report's on the reimaging campaign meeting that we held on February 20th at 1:30 here at the Charlie Beard City Hall building. It lasted close to 2 hours. Councilmen present were myself, Josh Mast, Joe Crutch, and Chris Engel. Quorum, when the meeting was opened at 1:30 p.m., council did not have a quorum. We proceeded as an informational meeting until 1:56 when Chris Engel arrived, and I was appointed as chair of the meeting. We had about 50 people show up to the meeting, and surprising, but much appreciated that we had that much interest. Invited guests were the administration, Mayor McCann was here, the law director, Sean, Kim Sprague, financial director, and we had council members. Library board members, we had Director Kara Potter, board president Lauren Connor, and board member Christine Korn. Total, we had Herman Judy Daly, Rich Rosenvich, and Jan Bechtel. I believe that's who the other one was. My apologies, I did not do a sign-in sheet to see who was here. And I did not ask those that asked questions to state their names. They just got past me, sorry. Premise of the meeting, Mr. Jim Hamilton's reimaging campaign placed 3 1/2-page ads in the Crescent News. The ad dated 1/6/24 caught my interest. I feel when a person tries to energize the community with ads, I have to ask why. The premise of the ads asked for support of feasibility study on creating a family center, Defiance Public Library in the 1918 building, and moving the Tuttle Museum into the Carnegie building. Why? Because it would have increased much needed economic development and tourism. The ad also reached out for petitions, signatures to support a feasibility study, prevent demolition of the historic homes around the library, prevent the demolition of the 1918 building, create a family center, and move the Tuttle Museum to the Carnegie building. In our meeting, I felt it was important to answer Mr. Hamilton's questions. He wrote his ads for balance. Mayor McCann did a great job answering questions on the 1918 building, answered that there's no plans to tear the building down. City would not pay for a feasibility study. City does not pay for someone else's study, too expensive. City has a plan sending out sample requests for proposals to developers to generate ideas for the building. Mayor is satisfied with the positive economic development that is taking place in Defiance. He gave some good examples that we've heard here. And he is also satisfied with the tourism that is supported by the DDVB and other groups. And he gave some good examples of those also. Library board answered questions related to their pending annex building to support more room for their main building, answered questions on timelines, fundraising for the project and cost. Tuttle liked location they are at, talked about limited hours, but said open when needed for tours, talked about volunteers and paid staff, need a budget review. They said they do not want to move. And then after that, it was probably the first hour of that, which is what really, really quick. We had about 25 questions from the public and guests. These are just some samples of the questions. Some supported the feasibility study, some expressed their support for the library, openly expressed. One person asked who makes the final decision on the feasibility study. Mayor McCann said council. One made recommendations to pave football field, and Mayor McCann said that is a part of the proposal for that's going to be sent out. And one person warned about anything being free, since Mr. Hamilton said his proposal feasibility study would be free. And that was discussed also. Has Tuttle Museum looked into moving to Auglaize Village? Answer was Auglaize is county, Tuttle is city. One person gave a long reason for supporting the reimaging campaign and feasibility study, citing positives to the city. Another asked if other considerations beside library being retrofitted in the 1918 building have been made. And I had asked about that, but it was probably better that the library be put there instead. Anyone who wanted to ask a question was encouraged. We let them speak. If it took a half hour, they could have a half hour. But we didn't cut anybody off, and I think that was greatly appreciated. I was talking to Mike the other day, and it was a 2-hour meeting, but it felt like 15 minutes had gone by. It was that moving. We had a motion by Josh to adjourn and second by Chris, and the meeting ended at 3:25. It started at 1:30. It was great. That's my report. Any questions from anybody that was there?
No, it's a good report, Mr. Uresti.
Thank you.
Good report. Thank you. Are there any other liaison committee requests or reports? Do we have any comments from council? Mrs. Crutch.
Yeah, just another plug for the Strady Center that coming up this week. March 2nd is the Fort Wayne Ballet, and then March 22nd is the Red Hot Chili Pipers. The Fort Wayne Ballet will be at the Strady, and the Chili Pipers will be at the Tamura Performing Arts Center. And that's for the March activities that are coming up. And then also I had a text from someone that's in the Derbyshire area and wanted to know with the project if they're going to be, after they work on the roads, are they going to be working on the lawns that they tore up?
I would say yes. I will check with Mrs. Sproul, but it would be standard operating procedure when planning season gets here. It may have seemed like planning season today. Call me late tomorrow and let me know if you think it's still planning season. Yeah,
Usually they do, but I just
I'm sure they will, but I'll check.
asked. Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Waxler.
I had a couple of people that that was voted on the charter committee and said that nobody's ever contacted them. Whose job or who contacts those people?
They were supposed to contact me. I don't have their numbers. So unless you guys have their numbers.
Who's in charge of that committee?
Who's in charge of it?
I think the process, Mr. Waxler, from the time I served is, once they get together, they will elect the chairperson. For as long as-
Because I just had a
for as
couple
long
of
as
them
we've
say
had
they
it,
haven't
so
heard anything, they didn't know what was going on.
I should have everybody's contact information that was chosen, so.
Yeah, our last meeting, we mentioned to get a hold of me, and nobody got a hold of me. Well, I take that back, one person got a hold of me.
We'll get it rolling.
Thank you.
So
Any other comments from council? Board of Control, Mayor McCann.
Thank you. Just one appointment to our park board, the city school board designee, Matt Carr, who is a middle school principal, has agreed to serve on our park board. And all I need is council's blessing, Mr. President.
The mayor has requested the appointment of Matt Carr to the Park Board. Shall the consent of council be given to the appointment proposed by the mayor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Carr.
Thank you. And there'll be two more appointments coming. I think I mentioned that in an email to you. One from Defiance College and one from, I don't know, another one. And that's all I have, sir.
All right, well, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So one thing I wanted to make council aware of, and then I also have a request. The first thing to make council aware, we will be receiving the new fire truck tomorrow afternoon. So because of that, I have scheduled for the fire department to come over with the truck next week for council. They'll be here early, about 30 minutes early, if anybody wants to come and check out the new vehicle. So that's the March 5th council meeting. They'll be there about 30 minutes, be here about 30 minutes early if you want to come and take a look at it. It's a large expenditure from the city, so figured you might be interested. The other was the request. I would request an executive session for the hiring of a public employee, 121.22 G1.
All right. Mr. Mack has requested an executive session. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Mast.
Second.
Second, Mr. Engel.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Stretch?
Yes.
All right, with that, before we adjourn, we'll have an executive session. Anything else, Mr. Mass?
Not this time, Mr. President.
All right.
Did you just call him Mass?
Mass Mac, it's in there. It's
First
close.
two letters are correct.
One of us lands.
Maybe. You're declining.
Ms. Bragg.
Just a couple of things. I have purchase orders, 4 of them. Building inspection 202400716 Vaughn's Auto Parts and Salvage for the demo of 844 North Clinton, $35,000. Water pollution control 202400710 Buckeye Pumps Northwest and Preston Run. New pump 16,150.80. And finance 202400695 State Bank and Trust Visa BWC True Up 22,954.98 and streets is 202400688 Oscar Larson upgrade to the software for the fuel system 16,367. If you have any questions about any of those. The current fuel system that DJ has is what,
Like
20 years old.
Yeah.
There's no parts, there's no support. They're just running on a thread. So this will take care of a lot of issues. The true up is just something you have to pay. And we pay it with the Visa because you get a discount if you pay online. So it's nice.
Yeah.
Of BWC. And then the last thing I have is the mailer that went out for our new electric aggregation, Dynegy. The new rates will take effect for the end of April, the May bill. The new rate is 0.063770. I've had some calls, just is the letter legit? Yes, it is. It's sent out. It's got a City of Defiance on the top of it. We did get something out on the website and Facebook to follow up. But it is legit. If you don't want to participate, you have every right to opt out. But then it's on you what your rate will be. And I'm not going to speak on what that would look like for people. So, but please call us if you have myself or my end of the building all has copies of this letter at their desks just to be prepared for phone calls. They've been super helpful with people calling. Just most people wanting to know if it's a legit letter just since there's so much fraud out there. So.
And if I could just add to what you said, I have directed a couple people to call,
Yes.
give you a call.
Yep.
And the only report that I've gotten back is she's so well spoken. It's easy to talk to her. I learned a lot. So good job.
I haven't had anybody mad. They've had a lot of questions. I had a couple people say they went online and read their reviews, which weren't great, but one time somebody told me that nobody ever puts great reviews online, so I don't know, but by all means, if people have issues, just let us know and we can try to work through some of it. So we're here to help.
So Dynegy, in layman's terms, Dynegy's who we're buying, not who were, who the power is coming from. Toledo Edison is still the distribution side of it. It's Toledo Edison's wires, it's Toledo Edison's poles, and it's part of the whole deregulation thing, I suppose. it's supposed to be a good thing for us. Folks, as Mrs. Sprague said, can go online and choose their own supplier if they so wish. And if people say, well, I didn't get a letter, without looking at their bill, I can't really explain. Their letter could have gotten lost in the mail, certainly that does happen. But maybe they weren't participating in the aggregation program prior, so they may not have gotten a letter.
That was one question I had heard, is if people opted out previously, they're out.
I'm assuming that that's why they probably haven't gotten a letter, because they wouldn't have been. I told the people I had one person call that hadn't got a letter, and I said, after your May bill drops, look at it, you can bring it in here, I'll look at it, but then let us know, what happened, if you're automatically in or out, because it doesn't really address that.
Right.
If you didn't get one.
Well, that was what I wondered.
Yeah.
I didn't know if people opted out last year, if they got thrown back in the pool for the new year or the new contract, or if they were still out. I guess is what a lot of people wondered. And another thing is if people who are interested or curious about rates and information, PUCO, the Public Utility Commission of Ohio, their website, I went through there and it's excellent.
Okay.
There's a lot of information on there regarding choosing your own electric company if you're not going with the aggregate. Shows you a rate site too, where you can compare rates across Ohio.
Good.
So
Good.
there's a lot
Okay.
of information on there if people are
All
interested.
right. Good. That's good to know. Okay.
Mr. Engel?
Yeah, if they opt out, if they would go with Toledo Edison, what are they gotta do? Just call Toledo Edison and do it that way and see what the price
If you
is
want to
gonna be?
opt out, on the form, there's a spot. You
Right.
can fill out, opt out, and mail in. Once you opt out, like the mayor said, you still have Toledo Edison, but then your supplier,
Toledo Edison.
yeah. So I'm not gonna speak on what that rate
Okay, right.
will be, cause it's very variable
They
and
would know though.
they would,
Toledo Edison would be able to do
yes,
that. Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
This is sticky wicket for all of us, really, to be honest with you, but when you look at the rates and you go online to the Ohio Choice or Choice Ohio, whatever it is, you can see this is a pretty good rate. You can shop around and probably save yourself a few pennies, but as Mrs. Sprague has explained, some of those rates are only good for 30 days. So if you don't in 30 days choose somebody else, that rate is liable to go up. And then some of the rates have a $15 monthly charge in addition to what you're paying per kilowatt hour. I don't have time to chase those rates. I'm sure there are people that do. And I'll be pretty pleased that was all we had as an increase, is what we're paying.
I had one lady call and was very happy because she had opted out of our previous aggregation and was paying 0.10 and some change, and she was ecstatic to get back into this. But she said, I know what I did, and so she was excited. Everybody else wasn't as much, but it's better than what they
say, I want to keep the old rate. Well,
I know,
We all do.
I got that a lot, but I said, well, if we could have, we would have, but we can't, so. Yeah. That's all I have.
And we did this 18 months?
This was 18 months.
This is an 18-month commitment, and that was at the consultant we've been working with, simply because they feel that 18 months from now, we'll be in a little better situation and rates could go down. We'll know in 18 months.
That's what a lot of people don't understand too, is when you're locked in for 18 months, it's gonna elevate their rates slightly. Because those low rates you see, like you said, are mostly month to month. A lot of them carry cancellation fees. If you opt out at some point in the contract, they'll charge you $90. So to get that 18 months, you've gotta bump it up. I think the next lowest was 0.03 of a cent.
Yeah.
So it's a minimal difference, but we're locked in for 18 months. I think that's a better way to go.
Any other comments?
All right.
We do have 2 items of legislation for this evening. So if we could read the caption for the first.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance awarding a contract for the water line replacement and resurfacing of Webster Street and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is a project we've talked about multiple times here, Council, the resurfacing and water line replacement of Webster Street. The original published estimate for the project was $996,000. The lowest and best bid that came in was from Ward Construction at $535,954. So we're very pleased with that bid. Kim was very happy with it. So if you have any questions, it's like I said, it's been on the agenda for a while to get taken care of. This will be water line replacement on Webster from College Place north, approximately 1,300 feet. Catch basin replacements as needed, curb replacements as needed, sidewalk replacements as needed, pavement and milling, resurfacing on Webster from College Place to Stadium. So start time for the construction will be May-June timeframe, with contract completion in September of this year. So.
Mr. Hancock.
I do have a question. Do you know why there was such a gap between what we estimated and the actual bid?
It's the market.
I
I don't have a better answer for you than that.
400?
Yeah.
There were
There were 6 bidders.
Six
Six.
bids.
Yeah.
There were 6 bidders, that's a big number of bidders. So there's obviously a hunger to get some work.
The road will be stone now instead of paved.
We
Chip
got
and seal,
horse
Mr.
buggies.
Do we have any other questions? Mr. Aresti.
No further questions, motion to suspend and call.
We have no further questions. We have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Corbett.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
And Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Right.
Motion done.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Engel. Second, Mr. Mast.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
And Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance approving and ratifying a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Defiance and the Sergeants and Lieutenants Local 166 International Union of the Police Associations, AFL, CIO, and declared an emergency.
Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So, as council is aware, there are technically 2 separate contracts in the police department. There's the blue, which is covered by patrolmen, and the gold, which is the sergeants and lieutenants. Late last year, we asked you to ratify the contract with the blue, the patrolmen, which you did, and we were able to get that one put in place. At this time, the gold, the sergeants and lieutenants, are signing on to the same contract that you had already ratified with the patrolmen. So same increases, same changes, it's all the same contract. So your ratification of this will rejoin the contracts up together, which they have traditionally been for, I think, possibly several decades, to be the exact same language for both bargaining units.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Mack? Mr. Wexler.
No further question, motion to suspend and call.
Motion to suspend and call.
Second.
Second, Mr. Aresti.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Yes. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast.
Me.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
And Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted. And with the items of legislation addressed, and before we enter executive session, we have time for citizens' concerns. Mr. Uresti.
I forgot to mention this earlier, if I could.
Sure.
I had somebody from the community asked me about transportation, local transportation through town for those that have an issue with driving. I know we addressed some concerns when we had the bridge out, the Clinton Street Bridge, where we had some social services and others that provided transportation to the north side from the south side. And this lady was asking me about whether we had ever considered having some sort of local transportation to the center of town to get from one end to the other. And I don't know if I couldn't recall that we had discussed that, and I guess I just wanted to see if you had into your terms or
Beyond like cab service? Is that what you're,
what's that, please?
we have cab services in town, or are you talking public transportation?
Like basically like a bus service of some sort or something that would transport from one end to the other.
It's been looked at, it's been discussed, it's cost prohibitive. Maumee Valley Planning, with the help of ODOT, has looked at it, cost prohibitive. If that person is a veteran or has special needs, there are certainly agencies that will help them. Might be best if they call my office, and we'll try to determine if they would be able to get help from the veterans office or from, if it's a senior, the senior center would be an option. Depends on the demographic you're talking about, Mr. Rusty.
I just wanted to, like I said, I couldn't recall it, and I know that it's something that we discussed a lot of different little options, you know, back when the bridge was closed down, and it just made sense then, but it was like at somebody else's cost and so on.
When the bridge was shut down, and honestly, we were obligated to do that. It was a cost we agreed to incur with ODOT in exchange for them completely shutting down the bridge to vehicular and pedestrian traffic to expedite the bridge replacement. We agreed to assume that expense to move those folks around.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
If we have any citizens' concerns, now would be the time. Please state your name and address, and you have.
Good evening, I'm Deb Bowers, 423 Jefferson Avenue, Defiance, Ohio. I'm here to talk about the fireworks. First of all, I want to go back because, they said, oh, the fireworks bother the animals, and they do. And they bother old people, and then I realized I'm one of those old people, which was a shocker. And also, I think children and a lot of our veterans and PTSD. I want to preface this by saying I'm a retired nurse, so part of what I do is I care for people. And that's just in my DNA. That's just what I do. You need help, then I'm going to give it to you. So when people are upset about fireworks, then I want to make sure that we can help them. And one thing I don't think that was addressed before is that when I know on July 4th they're going to have fireworks, you can prepare for it. You can give your animal medication. You can go in your room and put headphones on and block yourself off and know that you're not going to be disturbed. But when there are fireworks throughout the year and they're banging all over the place, that is unacceptable to me. I think it's hard for people to know. If you know when they're coming, you're prepared. But when you don't know, then it's out of the blue. And then when I was teaching Sunday school, I had a little kid ask me, are we going to have a war again? Because you see it all on the news. So that's another concern. When you hear all these bangs and booms, you got kids that are afraid that, the Russians are coming. I mean, I was afraid of that when I was a kid. And I wanted my dad to build a bomb shelter because I knew that they were going to come. Well, it's out there now. You can see it. Our kids see it on the news all the time, and it's scary. So that is another reason, I think. If you know the fireworks are coming, you can enjoy them. You know it's coming. You can prepare. But if it's just willy-nilly and they're having it in their backyard and these bangs and booms are coming, it's scary. And it's scary for our kids. It's scary for our animals. It's scary for our veterans. and it's scary for us old people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn?
Take it away, Ralph.
Ralph Hahn, 901 Wilhelm Street. Continuing the conversation on consumer fireworks, I'm going to try and talk a little faster tonight so I don't get the gong. Many communities in Northwest Ohio opted out of HB 172, and they put 100% ban on consumer grade fireworks, and you're aware of that. And I sent an email to those communities and asked for the reasons they banned fireworks. And most of it was on the recommendation of the safety services people, the police chiefs and the fire chiefs. And some of those comments from them was on HB 172, this is a bad idea. This is dangerous. If someone is firing from a house that is surrounded by other houses, what goes up must come down, and if it is still on fire, that is an issue. As to enforcing the ban, this is what was said in one of the community council minutes. Fireworks still happen, and the officers do try to enforce our rules. It is difficult with a few guys on duty at the time to try and chase down 70 calls regarding fireworks. But they do their best, and it is best that we have the rules and attempt to enforce them. They gave their police department the tools to do the job. They gave their police department direct guidance. They made it in black and white, so it's easier to enforce. That community is Napoleon. As I said, I contacted quite a few of them, but I'm not going to go through them all. There's not enough time, but this is a good summary from the little village of Haskins. This is from their administrator. The village of Haskins chose to opt out for a variety of reasons: safety, noise disturbance, fire-related matters, etc. Generally, the council felt that opting out was in the best interest of the residents. I called the Ohio Department of Commerce, the Fireworks Bureau, the Code Enforcement of the Fireworks Bureau, the Ohio State expert is Andrew Gardner. He's in charge. He's in charge of the fireworks and the fireworks law. And I asked him about the 50-foot boundary and the 150-foot boundary in relation to residential areas. There cannot be a residential structure or a spectator within 50 feet of ground devices, or within 150 feet of aerial devices. That makes fireworks in the city of Defiance largely illegal. I'm asking you again. I want to back up just a second. I told Mr. Gardner of our lot sizes, and I just quoted some of them. And the lot next to me is 40 feet wide. The lot next to that is 60 feet wide. The lot next to that is 40 feet wide. The lot next to that is 40 feet wide. The lot next to that is 40 feet wide. So that helped explain why I called and asked the question that I did. So I'm asking council again, put the fireworks back in control of the city. period. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll have a few minutes. Oh, Mrs. Crutch.
I had an email.
Oh, please.
Says, Jill, I'm writing to express my opinion on the use of fireworks in or near the city of Defiance. I think it is wonderful that the city continues to celebrate the 4th of July with a beautiful public display of fireworks display given by a licensed pyrotechnician. I live within the city limits at the county line on Jessica Street. The fireworks that are used by unlicensed private citizens have been an issue since we moved here. Many people use fireworks for their personal enjoyment, and many very close behind my house, which is in the county. Several of the neighbors within the city and surrounding area have 4th of July parties. The first year we lived here, 6 years ago, a neighbor on the street behind us was ill, and she came out to ask me if I could do something as she could not rest. My neighbors have dogs and have told me that many summer nights they have had to cover up their dogs and hold them as they became so fearful. Now that I have health issues, I understand how disturbing the loud sounds like gunfire can be. I also understand that people like to have fun and have parties, but it should not be at the expense of others. We are a community, many of us like a family. It does not feel right that some people should disturb the peace and safety of the entire community. Virginia Sterling, 2033 Jessica Court. And then she wrote me back and said, I would like to add to my letter after the first sentence that I think it is wonderful that the city continues to celebrate the 4th of July with a beautiful public display of fireworks display given by the licensed pyrotechnician, with notice to the public of the exact time, date, and place. Thank you for your consideration, Jenny. And then, I think you guys might have gotten that one, I don't know. Let's see. Says, to whom it may concern, recently the unregulated use of fireworks was brought up before the Defiance City Council by Ralph Hahn, a resident of the city who requested that restrictions be placed upon the use of these tiny explosives as they can negatively affect domestic pets. Others have pointed out that fireworks can cause trauma and panic in those who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. While these arguments were briefly debated, the council opened the issue to the public, many of whom fought passionately for the right to be allowed to set off fireworks whenever they deemed it relevant or necessary, with no thought other than the joy it brings to children, as well as the idea that the complaints came from only a few people about their pets. Fireworks can be fun, and they can be pretty. They can also cause irreversible harm to the environment, to humans, and to animals. While I do not believe that fireworks should be banned completely, I do think that there is a time and a place. I would ask the council to sanction the use of these explosives, as well as to impose fines or some sort of punitive action for those who break the law regarding fireworks. There is no reason that every weekend needs to be punctuated by the use of these explosives, and in some cases, a noise cannon. Furthermore, the damage they can cause for the aforementioned reasons must be considered. According to the National Center for PTSD for Veterans, fireworks may cue memories of combat or explosions and cause distress. Additionally, fireworks may be reminders of intense fires or gun violence. When given adequate time to prepare, those who suffer from combat-related PTSD find ways to minimize the impact and trauma that the sights and sounds of fireworks can cause. Unfortunately, when fireworks are used irresponsibly, on days when they are unanticipated, the noise can trigger panic attacks and extreme responses. After all, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs reminds us whether or not fireworks are expected, they can cause distress for those who experience combat or went through a fire, explosion, or gun violence. In addition to the noise and the sights of fireworks, the smell of them can bring negative trauma memories to the forefront, causing more damage. The smoke from fireworks has also been shown to negatively affect those with respiratory problems. In Potential Impact of Fireworks on Respiratory Health, Caroline Guter and Stephen Monafort note, the burning of fireworks releases a large amount of air pollutants, including sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter, along with certain metallic salts including cadmium. These pollutants impact the environment and exacerbate breathing issues in which those who suffer from respiratory ailments such as COPD and asthma, among others. Furthermore, the smoke from fireworks causes extensive air pollution that leaves dangerous toxins in the air for days. In addition to polluting the air with noxious chemicals, fireworks can also cause untold damage to the environment and wildlife, as well as domestic pets. While there is no denying that fireworks can harm wildlife, unexpected explosion can cause devastating effects on domestic animals who suffer from noise phobia. Sandy Lamott, and fireworks are too loud for many pets. Here's how to keep them safe. Points out that the noise from fireworks measures between 150 and 175 decibels, which is louder than that of a plane at takeoff, which comes in at 140 decibels. Human hearing is damaged at 85 decibels. For animals with sensitive auditory equipment like dogs, these loud noises can be overwhelming. 40% of dogs suffer from noise phobia, and the most common causes occur from fireworks and thunderstorms. Loud, sporadic, and unexpected sounds like unregulated fireworks can cause extreme fear, and as in the case with my epileptic dog, grand mal seizures. Dogs who suffer from epilepsy are in danger of having seizures. These seizures could potentially kill a pet. Additionally, it should also be noted that fireworks can be dangerous. When used in safe and sanctioned ways, this danger can be ameliorated. In 2022, though, 10,200 people were seen in ERs across the country, and 11 people died from fireworks-related accidents. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, adults 25 to 44 years of age experienced about 36% of the estimated injuries, and children younger than 15 years of age accounted for 28% of the estimated injuries. Unregulated use of explosives clearly causes injury and in some cases death that can also set fires to the environment. When fireworks are anticipated, as they are in holidays like the 4th of July and New Year's Eve Day, the negative effects on humans, pets, and the environment can be somewhat mitigated. Provisions can be put in place to protect the ones that we love. For example, when I know that fireworks are going to happen, I treat my dog with anti-anxiety medications beforehand. However, the unexpected fireworks create problems, and there is absolutely no reason to shoot off fireworks, and in the case of my neighborhood, a cannon, particularly every weekend. While I understand that people want to celebrate a football victory, for example, it is not necessary to cause tiny and or loud explosions every single weekend. It is also absolutely ridiculous as well as rude to continue those loud, jarring celebrations well into the night. I am glad that fireworks can bring joy to people. I think they can be a wonderful way in which to celebrate the founding of the United States or to say goodbye to an old year and usher in a new one. Allowing the unauthorized and unregulated use of fireworks, however, is irresponsible and creates undue stress to those who suffer from PTSD, for pets who have noise phobia, and to the environment. I ask that the Defiance City Council keep these facts in mind when debating the use of fireworks in city limits, and to please place provisions on firecrackers and noise cannons so that everyone in the city, and yes, their pets, can continue to find Defiance a great place to live. Thank you for reading. Sincerely, Dr. Abigail Bowers, 834 Jefferson Avenue.
Mr. Rusty.
Just to follow up on the comments we heard on the fireworks. As we recall, several weeks ago, I made a motion to at least allow 1 day of fireworks in the ban, and that was turned down. I think it's completely unfair for council to basically table the firework ban without addressing it. And I think we do need to address it. What we need to do is either bring it off the table, amend it, or vote it up or down. And I think that's what the community looks at us to do. We take on those challenges, and that was a challenge to us. We made a decision, that's why it was on the table. And I think what we need to do is finish it. And if we don't do it, I think what we need to do, I'll bring it up next week, but I just thought I'd let you know that it's something that we need to do, and probably an amendment, since council didn't like the 1 day, the potential of 2 days or 3, and then basically at least we have designated a time period, regardless of the celebration. And, but I'll be bringing that up next week.
Thank you.
You're not asking now to bring it off the table, right?
Just discussing and saying that he's gonna bring it up next week.
I'll bring it up bring it off the table next week, and then we go forward from there.
Mr. Corbett.
Since we're reading emails, I'm gonna read one that comes from a little different point of view. And this is from Jason Huffman, who's an arson investigator for the state former fire department member here. Reference, the fireworks legislation issued the city council has been considering. I want to pass along a few documents that were disseminated with the state fire marshal's office when the fireworks law was amended in 2022. My apologies if you already have similar documents. I personally don't have a dog in the fight and don't speak officially for the state fire marshal, but just wanted to ensure that everyone was informed. Prior to the code amendment, the fire marshal's office Fire and Explosion Investigators Bureau was the primary enforcement arm of fireworks legislation, and it kept us very busy, and it was a huge burden. We investigated all fireworks incidents, including possession, sale, manufacture, etc., and assisted in the prosecution of violators. Given that we were the lead agency per the ORC, we were responsible for collecting evidence to include all live yet not discharged fireworks and transporting them to the SFM office in Reynoldsburg for inventory and custody in our explosive magazine until the disposition of the case. During the week of 4th of July, the SFM would rent 4 U-Haul trucks for each corner of the state and put 4 investigators on call to drive the trucks because we would have so many confiscated fireworks to transport. At year's end, they would find a location to destroy the fireworks per court order with the assistance of the bomb squad, all that for a misdemeanor fine. The amendment to the code has obviously made fireworks legal, therefore taking the SFM out of the loop. And if local jurisdictions opt out of the law, they are responsible for the prosecution, collection, storage, and destruction of the fireworks. Not sure this would be an issue for the city, but just wanted to mention it since the SFM no longer offers this service. In my experience, at a minimum, most municipalities don't want to store explosives. For example, last week I responded to Van Wert City to collect a Molotov cocktail for the PD because they don't have the proper facility to store it as evidence. Don't get me wrong, if there's a death, injury, or fire resulting from fireworks incidents, the SFM would respond, and investigate the incident if requested by the local jurisdiction. For the record, the SFM as a whole was against the code amendment in its entirety. Given the number of incidents we had per year, everyone anticipated the number of fireworks incidents to increase. Surprisingly, in the 6 counties that I cover, I have had not a single fireworks related injury, death, or fire since the law was amended. It is my opinion that the law is very restrictive to this type of fireworks and who, where, and when they can be discharged. That is an improvement over the previous ban that everyone ignored anyway, and usually while consuming alcohol, etc. Important to clarify that my statements are a consideration of life, safety, and property protection, not that Mr. Hahn's pet or disturbing of the peace was not important, and I disagree with him. Maybe if I was in his situation, I would seek the same recourse. Hope this helps a bit. And to Mr. Resti's comment, I appreciate that. Through this process, what I've come to understand is it's going to be difficult to please everybody. It doesn't matter how this goes.
Right.
Okay? I didn't agree with 1 day. I don't think that's enough. I think it's too restrictive. So we need to work on some sort of compromise. So at least you know if it's 2 or 3 days when it's going to happen. So
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, the other side of that is you're gonna go, and I said from the beginning, the people that are doing this illegally are gonna keep doing it illegally. You can make every law, you can make every order, you can do whatever you want, and they're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah,
We're not gonna stop it.
The only thing it will stop is if our enforcement agencies are able to enforce.
The one, that's all you're looking at is for the one.
And I understand that, Steve, but people don't follow the law driving down a road.
Exactly.
You know, so I mean,
So what do we do?
but if we
Shut the
still
road
have,
down?
no, but if we still have some kind of restrictions of 3 or 4 or 5 days, at least we know those days, and let's say, you know, it's supposed to be July 4th and somebody shoots it off July 8th, at least the police department knows they're not supposed to be shooting it off July 8th, maybe they'll be able to find that person.
And
get
just
'em.
because they're gonna do it anyway, so then we don't have any laws? Oh, they're gonna break them, so let's not have any laws.
Well, we have a
That's
law,
stupid.
the state of Ohio has a law now. I mean, their days are posted, so that's already there. I mean, it's a matter of whether we wanna do something that's more restrictive or not. The state's already put all those days out there, and you can go to and look at them, you know when they are, and there's a lot of them, I'll give you that, so. Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry, I'm not the president.
No, you're fine. Mr. Mast?
Is there a chance that we could get Chief Schaefer in to speak
Yeah.
on the enforcement side of this, to give us an idea of what we're looking at if we do decide to ban it? Is it enforceable? And what's gonna happen? I mean, is there a chance we can maybe have him come in next time to give us a little explanation on that?
Don't know about the next time,
Well,
Mr. Mast.
Before
Yes.
we decide
Yep.
on this issue, because we may be creating some sort of nether for him where they're still can't enforce it.
That's a consideration. Mr. Hahn?
I just wanna say, if you compromise with 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, whatever you do, or none, if you do throw some days in there, how are you gonna follow the 50-foot and 150-foot boundary?
It has to be enforced. And you're telling me in your neighborhood, it's not, they're all too close. So if you made a call, you should have a response. It shouldn't be, I heard you say this before, well, it's not 11 o'clock yet. I mean, if we're gonna enforce it, we need to enforce it. It's not just 50 feet, it's no alcohol, I mean, it goes on for quite a bit, so.
It goes on, it's in depth. There's a lot of restrictions that go with that Ohio fireworks law. That I don't think is communicated well, and it's gonna be creating a gray area. It should be yes or no.
Thank you. Any other comments from council on this issue? All right, with that, we have a few minutes to stretch our legs. We'll end our executive session in just a few moments.
Thank you all. Mr. Corbett, you need some WD-40 on that chair.
Ma'am, we're ordering new ones, and I'm trying to sit
Are you?
still.
It's like,
I'm trying to sit
it's like
still.
yours is the only one that squeaks, you poor man.
I know.
Sit still.
Hey, thanks, guys.
I'll stand up next time.
I don't need their address, yeah, I just need the name, so I can.
I can't keep it from leaning back either. It's supposed to have some stupid